I call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And tonight the invocation is going to be, I guess, by me because I don't see our pastor, so I don't know what happened to him. So we do a very brief invocation. Please bow your heads. Our Father, tonight we hope that our thoughts that we think about and our words that we speak are acceptable in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
Adjustment approval of the February 20th, 2016 meeting agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to adopt and approve the February 20th meeting agenda.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 5, the public comment period. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes if you can. And first up is Benny Glenn. Come on down to the podium, Benny, and introduce yourself, name and address, please, and whatever you got to say. Welcome aboard.
Good evening. My name is Benny Glenn. I own property on Castle Oak Road, and one of the areas that's been development. And from what I've been hearing, they want to do a mixed use where I am, but that's not good for us because our property said inner curve. And if you put mixed use there, it's not convenient for the traffic. And we just need to look at it as the property owners. Y'all planning, but we own the property. You know what I'm saying? We own the property. And if y'all lock us in, we can't do nothing. My wife is sick, and I can't do what I used to do. That's the reason we're selling the farm. And if y'all do it mixed use, we can't sell what we need to sell. We need it to be single family if that's possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Benny.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Joe Fanjoy. You have to do it again.
Hello, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Joe Fanjoy, 109 Fairground Road. You guys know why I'm here. I was only here like 2 weeks ago. So really the main reason I'm here is just to get an update from you all. But before I get into the details of that, I just wanted to update you on where I am and where my neighbors and I are on making our own improvements to Grigsby and our neighborhood. So our neighborhood is Fair Hill. We don't have an HOA, and that's for a lot of us, that's the reason we moved there, because it's not, additional money out of our pockets for maybe limited benefits. So we kind of organized ourselves. Our entrance sign had kind of gotten to look really bad, so we've already started on that. I've got a plan for late March. As soon as the last frosts are done, we're going to get out there. We're going to put all new plantings in there and just improve that area. Also, we have neighbors, probably about 8 of them, whose fences back up to Grigsby. That also had gotten overgrown, so we're organized. We're cleaning that area up to just improve the aesthetics of that, that area right across from the baseball and softball fields. Also, we have officially adopted Grigsby Avenue in the Adopt a Highway program. So we have our first cleanup plan for Saturday, March 3rd, and each of you is invited. We're going to start
When's the date again?
Saturday, March 3rd.
I'll be out of town.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So we're going to meet at 9 a.m. at the entrance to Sugg Farm, all the way down Grigsby, and work our way right back up Grigsby towards Councilman Kelly's house.
Super.
So that's kind of where I am. So my request to you is, last time I was here, you guys were going into your retreat. I saw the agenda. I know that you had tons of stuff to discuss, and I hope that you discussed Grigsby. I also hope that beforehand that each of you had a chance to go down the street. Tom, I know you go there to coach baseball. Christine, you live on the street. Yeah. Peter, I think you said you went. And Dan, Sherry, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Anyway, it looks bad. It looks bad. So, if we keep encouraging DOT to repave it, that's going to be the first step. But if the rest of us can kick in some additional effort, you guys are getting ready to meet on your budget. I know the official hearing is 2 weeks from now. I may or may not be able to get to that, but what I'd like to request that you seriously consider additional curb and gutter, beyond the repaving. I know that the DOT is going to pretty much do the minimum, and, I still think that there's further improvements that we really need to put in the budget. The obvious narrow part of the street coming into the curve, there's no curb and gutter, it's super narrow. I know DOT will probably bring it up to specs, but, that may not be enough. I'm sorry? They're just paving what's there. So right. So obviously, if you guys have been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, I would really like to see some money in the budget. I know you're kind of limited, but, I've been doing that drive for 18 years, and by the time, the next 2 years will be a construction on the Park Avenue, I guess, whatever the name of the new neighborhood is. So there'll be more traffic, more residents coming in. So, let's make it look good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
At this point in time, I'll close the public hearing and go to agenda item 6A, request from communication, Southern Area Planning Initiative, Gina Clapp and Jay Smith O'Brien.
Good evening. So this evening we have our lead consultant for the Southern Area Planning Initiative with us. Back in May of 2017, the Town Council met at a workshop to discuss some development concerns and some rezoning proposals that were going on within the southern area of the town. And from that meeting was the birth of the Southern Area Planning Initiative. And we had received direction from the Town Council to seek consulting assistance to get some public feedback and to do a community engagement program to get the thoughts of our residents of the future of development within the southern growth area of the town of Holly Springs. With that, we then hired Brian Atkins, and Jay Smith is the lead consultant, and he's going to come up and do a presentation regarding the final report for the study that was completed. And then also in the audience, we have Vaughn Hansen from Benchmark Planning. They were hired separately under a separate contract to do a land supply analysis for the project to assist us through that community engagement program. At the end of the presentation, we're going to ask that the Town Council make a motion, which is not normal for a report that is presented to the Town Council. But last June and then amended in August, the Town Council adopted a resolution 17-23 that precluded staff to bring forward rezoning petitions to the Town Council for consideration within the southern area. And so upon receipt of this report, that resolution then will drop off, and we can then start bringing rezoning petitions forward to the Town Council for consideration. So just so we have paper trail in the minutes of the Town Council, we're going to ask that you formally receive the report. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jay, and I think I need to
Go backwards.
there you go.
That looks familiar.
There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Jay?
council members, and staff. I'm delighted to be here this evening. My name is Jay Smith. I'm a principal with O'Brien Atkins Associates in Research Triangle Park. As Gina mentioned, over the last several months, we've been delighted to be a part of a project called the Southern Area Planning Initiative. It's a large piece of ground I'll take you across, as well as how our study unfolded, and we'll land on some findings. Let me first tell you a little bit about what I'm going to move you through. I'm going to talk a little bit about our team, the process we went through, the careful attention we paid to community engagement, the planning exercises themselves, which led to the findings. I'm Jay Smith with O'Brien Atkins. We served as the lead planner, but at our right hand was Benchmark out of Charlotte. Vaughn Hansen is here this evening, and he led the land supply analysis, which you'll hear more about shortly. We delved into transportation concerns, and Ramey Kemp assisted us in some of those. And then, of course, the Town of Holly Springs staff that you see all listed here was active in all of our core meetings that we had and planning sessions. I suppose it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem, and that's managing growth. And that's what led us here to this study and understanding what lies ahead. How do we begin to plan for that? How do we react to it? This is what's prompted this study. Our scope, my assignment, so to speak, was to, one, facilitate a community engagement process. Make sure we're listening. It was also our obligation to inform the community. None of us come to these sessions knowing all answers, but rather we need to inform one another. We need to also feel the pulse of the land. What's its capacity? If we're thinking about the future, what's it look like? How many pounds will fit in the bag, I sometimes say. We also want to challenge and validate the current plans, and then ultimately move to recommendations. So if that's a little bit about what SAPI, the Southern Area Plan Initiative, is, let me tell you what it's not. It is not a detailed land use plan amendment. We were flying at an altitude which wanted to collect and understand public engagement and the feedback we were hearing, and make a course setting, a compass heading for how more studies may come to further define the southern area. Oops, went backwards. As I said at the outset, it's a pretty vast, large piece of land we're all familiar with. We move about it all the time. It's a beautiful piece of land. It's 12.2 square miles inside the corporate limits and the ETJ, outlined in red. We met frequently. I think we had 5 work sessions, multiple phone conversations, and charting a course, measuring our progress. Are we where we need to be? What will be presented at the next meeting? Carefully planned work sessions. What are we hearing? How do we react to that for the next time we meet as a community? Develop some planning work, and then draft findings. 3 community meetings were held. As you can probably imagine, that first meeting, which was held in this room, all 3 of them were, by the way, we wanted to orient everyone who came. And I believe they were well attended. They were passionate people about their community, coming ready to listen and also to converse with us. So we oriented them to the project and talked about the existing land use plans. You might remember from an earlier slide, one of the things we wanted to do was validate the planning that had come before, where we sit today. Community meeting 2 moved on to land supply. Benchmark by that time had concluded their land supply analysis and presented it to the community. We also talked about community growth areas, neighborhood centers, if you will. And in that session, we used live input clickers, as we call them, to allow feedback during the course of the meeting, posing questions and then getting responses. Another way of engaging the community and discerning what they're feeling. Community meeting 3, a little bit more on the conclusions side of things. We talked more about community growth areas. We brought up transportation issues. We wanted to make sure that everyone understood we know this is a big issue. We understand that this is a chief concern. We also want to talk about tree preservation. Again, we were reacting to things that we heard along the way. We came forward with some preliminary findings, still in their draft stage. And again, we did the live input clickers from the community. In addition to that, I held one-on-one sessions with many, many groups and individuals. You see many of them listed here. As you can probably imagine, looking at this group, I got a pretty a diverse set of responses, and rightly so. That's what our community is made of. But they were all productive, and everybody had a fondness for this area. Comment cards were passed out and returned, survey forms in community meetings 1, 2, and 3. I mentioned the live clicker voting. There was a great deal of online participation. And one of the things I want to point out is that the online responses were mirroring, echoing or parroting what we were hearing when we were talking to someone one-on-one. If we were at an easel taking notes or just getting questions in the hallway. Here's an overview of what we heard. General support for the current land use plan. Yes, needs tweaking. Increased traffic congestion is a big deal. The natural beauty of this land is highly valued. Continued growth is positive, but we got to keep our eye on the ball. We don't grow for the sake of growing. We grow carefully. Proactive planning is going to be needed. And one of the things I just sensed, more than sensed, heard directly, and there's a great sense of community pride here. You're very lucky to have a community that's engaged and passionate about where they live. Traffic concerns. Avon Ferry Road congestion. They didn't read about it, they lived it, and it's a big deal. Recent improvements, though, have begun to make some improvements, and it's noticeable and appreciated. Congestion is negatively affecting the quality of life if it continues to be one of those forefront issues that is set to the side or maybe not addressed head on. And congestion is not just from Holly Springs. We all realize it comes from other places too. We are land in between. There's employment centers around us and people who live on the other side, and they travel through our neighborhoods, our road systems to get to where they need to go, and we realize that. We live in a growing region, I suppose, is the bottom line. Tree preservation. There's a great affinity for the natural landscape and the trees that we have, and we don't want to see the landform or the landscape degraded just for the sake of getting more houses in or achieving a certain density, but to pay careful attention to how that may be done. We heard loud and clear biking, connectivity, walking trails, maybe some smaller parks. This was echoed across all the groups that I met with. And it's something, again, we need to continue to pay close attention to. The land supply analysis. In 1999, less than 1.5% of the study area was subdivided in lots less than a half acre. Now it's almost 8%. You see how things were different then and are changing to today. There were 40 parcels larger than 50 acres. Today they're 29. The average parcel size in study area decreased from around 8 to 2 acres. Hard to believe there was only 175 houses in the study area then. Now, 2,700 plus. During the 5-year period of 03 to 07, there were 1,028 dwelling units built. Growth is ramping up, as we all know and experience. Assumed maximum density yield based on, by ordinance, 5,815 dwelling units can come at the zoning of 2.36 units per acre. We also felt the pulse or tried to interpolate what that might likely mean, and that might actually translate to something more like, instead of by ordinance, but what like a lot or more than likely happen is 5,200 and some units. Based on a history and the path that we've come down. Here you see the by ordinance approach and the likely approach. Low density residential, you see the residential figures there, mixed use, and then what we might likely contrast them with as we might actually see based on history, based on talking to the community and them talking to us, what we will logically realize. Traffic. If we continue to build this plan, it's going to be challenging. The new improvements and residential developments, or for that fact, any developments and mixed-use developments, aren't always in complete sync. They are often near one another. One triggers the other at times, but they aren't always in sync, and sometimes there's a bit of a recovery period. This is a natural ebb and flow that we've seen and experienced. Avon Ferry Road and Main Street extensions are forecast relief. That's important to note. We talked a lot at the work session 2 about, work session 3 about community meeting 3 about traffic improvements and how they actually happen, the different streams of funding, how they are achieved and received. And there are good news is there are actual improvements planned. Avon Ferry, Ford Lake Winding, Piney Grove you see up here, and Piney Grove to Wilburn, Cass Holt. Those things will make marked improvement. We spend a lot of time talking about community growth areas, and you as a group will continue to talk about them. We all recognize that they're a vital part of a healthy neighborhood development. We just need to understand what is their specific personality, size, and shape. Inside of the ring that we're all now familiar with on these land use plans as concentric circles, the innermost circle is allowing by my zoning code right now up to 8 units per acre. The outer ring in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 units per acre. So it can vary, but mixed use is the plan or the recipe, and they include open space and retail, amenities, and event spaces. What's key for me as a land planner about these areas is that if we do have a conversation about traffic, we recognize that these can be instruments to lessen traffic, particularly if we can engage that conversation of biking and walking and connectivity. We can enjoy these conveniences and nearby services without having to get in our car to go find them. There are a couple of locations that have been resonating on the map for a while, and we continue to look at them and throw darts at them, if you will, to think about what lies ahead. More study is going to be required. And in fact, when we get to the findings, you'll see that to truly understand them, what's going to make them tick, is going to be an analysis of what the really market demand is, what is required for certain demographics and for businesses to come. And again, back to that phrase of what is their personality and their actual makeup? What size shoulders will they ultimately have? And you see the three marked there: Avon Ferry and Cass Holt, Wade Nash and Piney Grove, Cass Holt and Rouse. This leads us to findings. And what occurred to me as I was, as ink was hitting the page, was to say, this isn't broke, but it needs a tune-up. We need to prepare for growth, land supply analysis to determine the capacity for the land. So what is that telling us? It's starting to tell us about the amount, quantity. Now we need to talk about quality, qualitative. What do the CGAs look like, or these neighborhood centers, as I call them? And a closer examination will need to be done. We'll need to pay close attention to tree preservation as well. So, as you can imagine, there's going to be more study required as you continue to move from what I'll call vision to focus. As you think about the southern area, it's really, I'll say, easier and/or quicker to come to an understanding of vision, but now you're going to have the task of applying focus. Our 6 findings that hit the page were, and they're in an order which is intentional, by the way, because if we're going to bring clarity to the community growth areas or neighborhood centers, we're going to need to start off with a detailed market analysis of neighborhood centers. And there's a number of ways that can be done. There's certainly consultants that can help, but there's also some public outfits or entities that could be reached out to, Wake County perhaps, and others that could assist with this. Maintain the current land use plan densities. And those conversations you will have more of when I get when I talk to you about next steps. Update and revise the land use map. There are some things we want to just bring clarity to. There's maybe some color updates and take away any sort of confusion about what areas are which. Update the comprehensive transportation plan. This needs to be on the radar and needs to come onto the radar fairly soon as we anticipate the continued growth. Continued growth equals continued traffic. Update the UDO. And then, this is important, and the planning department, to Gina and her group's credit, have already begun to do this, as important an element as traffic impact is to begin to look at those, what we call TIAs, traffic impact analysis, with the zoning map petitions. So bring them forward in the process and not wait till later and hold them side by side to a petition and then wonder, do these things really match up? Do they really connect? Let's start to examine those sooner, and then you'll have a better feel for what may actually be coming ahead. That is a brief run-through of the ground, the number of square miles and that we covered, and our collection of findings. And I think that's it.
Questions or comments of Jay while he's up?
Oh, actually, there was one more slide. Excuse me,
Okay,
Mr. Mayor. So you will, I thought I was ended on my findings. Staff, you will continue, and the council, you will continue to meet and work based on the feedback that you've been receiving. You'll need to have additional workshops to sharpen this and bring focus to what I've been calling your overall vision. And then the staff will begin to work on the comprehensive plan amendments. That's where I meant to end.
Now my turn.
Yes.
Any questions or comments of Jay, even though we've seen this program a few times, perhaps? Or comments?
Jay, any inquiry you made with the school system about school needs in this area within the study boundary and how that could impact potential growth?
That's a really good question. But I had we did not meet with the school systems. When I was doing my one-on-one meetings, we were meeting more with the development community and landowners and neighborhood associations, realtors, groups, economic development, but we did not meet with the school system. That's a good question, and thank you.
Others? You were all set. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Gina's back.
And so with that is just a motion that we're requesting the council to receive the report saying that you've received it. And then we're going to continue working, as we had earlier this evening, some workshops to continue making our way through this report and determining what our next steps are.
Need a motion?
Motion to receive the Southern Area Planning Initiative report and findings.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7A, this is a public hearing, sworn testimony only. 300 West Holly Springs Road, Sean Ryan and Elizabeth Goodson. Aha. Evening, Sean.
Hello. All right, good evening, everybody. This is a special exception use public hearing item for the agenda for a new single-family home at 300 West Holly Springs Road. It's at the northwest corner of Blaylock Street and Holly Springs Road, just west of Main Street, located at the property that is highlighted in red on the screen. A couple of years ago, the town council changed the ordinances to require that any new home construction in the downtown Village District area go through a special exception use process. And the reasoning behind that was primarily because we have a lot of different zoning districts in our Village District area that don't always match up with our minimum lot standards. And so we find that there are sometimes special circumstances that variances and waivers may or may not be needed. It also allows the town council to weigh each of these requests separately to ensure that the type and style of housing that is being proposed is consistent with the town's land use plans. And so this property, of course, is a really good example of why this change was made. The lot was platted back in 1885, so well before zoning even really existed. And the house on the property was built in 1969. So it is a rather old property that doesn't reflect the town's current zoning policies. It is important to note that this property, which is shown on the bottom here, this is Blaylock Street along the bottom, Main Street along the left side of the picture here, or I'm sorry, West Holly Springs Road. And this is an aerial photograph just to give you a better idea of the neighborhood in which this house is situated. It is a legally non-conforming structure, which means it was built prior to the effective date of our ordinance, which means that it may not meet all of the typical ordinance requirements such as setbacks, minimum lot sizes, etc. This property in particular does not meet the minimum setbacks set by the zoning district that it is located in, the R15 zoning district. The UDO does not encourage these buildings to continue to exist. We are trying to get all of buildings into compliance. So legally established nonconforming buildings are not encouraged to be enlarged upon, but they can be maintained so that they maintain a good appearance for the overall image of the town. So the applicant is requiring to, or is requesting to leave the existing foundation of the house in place and build a new house on top of that existing foundation. So as I said, the existing house does not meet the current requirements, which is why two variance requests are part of this special exception use. So as you can see here, this is Blaylock Street along the right-hand side of the screen, Holly Springs Road along the bottom. The required setback from Blaylock Street is 20 feet, and the structure as it currently exists is 10.86 feet from that right-of-way. Along West Holly Springs Road, the required setback is 50 feet, and the house is currently at 33.6 feet. So that is why it is considered a non-conforming structure, because it does not meet those minimum setback requirements of the current ordinance. So the variance requests that are before you tonight is part of this special exception use. It's one variance request to reduce the setback along Blaylock Street from the required 20 feet to the existing setback of 10.86 feet, as well as a reduction in the front setback along West Holly Springs Road from the required 50 feet down to 5.68 feet. And we measure the setback along West Holly Springs Road from the ultimate right-of-way that is needed to widen West Holly Springs Road. And Elizabeth will come up here in just a moment and discuss that waiver request that is being made. But those are the two variance requests, the setback reduction on Blaylock Street and the setback reduction along West Holly Springs Road. These are the proposed elevations for the structure. It's a two-story house made of hardy plank architectural shingles, wood columns, features a front porch that will face West Holly Springs Road. And this is the view for how it will look from Blaylock Street. It is important to remember that North Carolina general statutes does not allow us to regulate any sort of architectural requirements for single-family homes. So this is just an example of what they are proposing. We will require them to be in substantial conformance with this, so if they want to completely redo the design of the house, it would have to come back to the council for additional consideration. With that, I will invite Elizabeth Goodson up to discuss the waiver that is being requested for right-of-way dedication.
Thanks, Sean.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We do not get many right-of-way waivers of right-of-way to come before you, so I want to kind of talk through this one a little bit, explain what is required, why it's required, and give you enough information that you can make a decision for the waiver that's being requested. And I know I've got it. So what has been shown on this plan is existing right-of-way is the lower dark green line. The applicant is requesting to reduce the amount of right-of-way that they would dedicate to a lesser amount than the ultimate required. Our ultimate required would be this top line. There is currently kind of an angle and odd variable width dynamic to this right-of-way. That came when the town did a sidewalk project along West Holly Springs Road, and we got the right-of-way needed to build the project, and it was along the path that the sidewalk went. So that is why there is an odd dynamic to this to start with. As you're aware, our requirements are for when development comes along, we do right-of-way and road improvements based off of the current center line to the project side of the road. So it would be the current center line of Holly Springs Road towards the project side, half of the improvements along the frontage of a project. West Holly Springs Road is a road that is a 4-lane median divided road on our comprehensive transportation plan, and would require 55 feet from the center line for that ultimate right-of-way. So it's 110 feet total, half of it is 55 feet. The variable nature of this makes it a little hard to see how it all measures out, but what it would end up being is about 13 feet, 13.3 on this corner, and it is about 26 and a half, 26.3 on this side. So to straighten it up, there's a smaller amount on this side, larger amount on this side to get this whole area as future right-of-way. The reason why the right-of-way is needed is because of this cross-section that we know is in our comprehensive transportation plan, and is the cross-section that all of West Holly Springs Road and continuing on down Holly Springs Road will need to be in order to address the traffic needs of the community. If we allow a waiver of this requirement, it is reducing the amount of room to be able to construct this road. So a reduction in approximately 17 feet would reduce all of the area for the sidewalk and this green space. It would reduce the ability to put sidewalk in this bike lane, or would reduce a lane of traffic. So there's some different components that could be done, but it would drastically change the dynamic of one side of this street to not have the full amount of right-of-way here. Sure, I'm explaining all the pieces that, while I'm explaining any questions, is we need to address those as we go through it. The applicant's going to explain their reasons for requesting this reduction, but we wanted you to be sure you understood the impact of this kind of decision on future improvements in this area.
Any questions so far from Elizabeth?
What is the length we're talking about? The setback? I'm trying to see on here.
The property frontage is about 150 feet.
Okay, so we're talking about 150.
And the distance of additional right-of-way on this side would be about 13 and a half.
Okay.
And on this side, about 26 and a
So we
half.
would probably go from 2 lanes down to 1, then to 2 lanes again.
It could potentially neck that portion down to not have the full amount of right-of-way here.
And right next door, we have all the developments that have dedicated that right-of-way to the west of the property.
That there is an approved development here that is proposing to build their half of the cross-section.
Yep.
And would have road widening here. Oak Hall currently does not have the road widening in place, but this project, Downton Square, recently came before the board, and that would also have road widening in place. Having the right-of-way in place allows us to have better flexibility when we're going to seek funding sources to be able to do road projects. We do not require single-family homes to construct the road widening across their frontage as we do when somebody's doing a further development or a subdivision. This is a mechanism to be able to get a lesser requirement, but something that would allow us to be able to come in later and do the road improvements in this area.
I'm a little confused. The staff report said that after planning board, there was a conversation and it seemed like there was now a consensus that we could obtain the right amount of right-of-way, but what I'm hearing now is that that's not the case.
There was a clarification on what was actually needed. The applicant had shown a line that was 27 feet from the existing all the way through the frontage, and it's not needed because this was an adjusted for the sidewalk. It was not a symmetrical widening like we do for roads.
Right.
When the road is done, that sidewalk will move to the ultimate location and will be a more straight path. It was meandering around, I believe, a tree and some other obstacles along the path. And so that was why it was a little further back on one side of this property and not on the other. So the conversation we had with the applicant was just to get more information from their surveyor and be sure that we knew exactly what was needed. And the main change was this corner was a lesser amount than what they were originally expecting. It still impacts the area in front of the house the same, or relatively same.
So it would impact our ability to have the ultimate ideal cross-section that we're planning on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And I have one additional question. If the waiver was not granted and the house is still in the same location, so we go to widen the road, then it's still going to be right up in front of it. So what is the impact, either way? If it stays in its current, it's going to, be in its current location.
If it stays in its current location, it's an existing house, it would be something we would have to evaluate at the time we would do a road project.
A road widening.
And consider that impact at that time.
Okay.
Elizabeth, in looking through this, I've got the planning board votes clear in my mind. I'm a little confused, expand if you will, about the staff recommendation.
I'm not sure that we have given a staff recommendation.
Now, okay.
Minimum
Next
complies with
page.
minimum.
It was if applicable, and when I read that, it almost sounds like the staff is saying it's okay.
Did you want to hear from the planning board, and we'll take a look at that and then have an answer?
Yeah. Would you?
Let's hear from the planning board first.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's on the second page. Hello, planning board.
Good evening.
Next slide.
I think
if you go to the next slide.
here are the things that we did have quite a lengthy discussion about the issue. I don't think we had any questions about the specifics of the house location. I think we were happy that there's new development. It looks like it's a nice design. We're comfortable with the house being built there. The feeling was that the widening of the road is not really an if, it's a when. I mean, it's already in the transportation plan. It's going to happen. So it doesn't make sense to not take the land now when we have the opportunity to do that. And at which time then when the road is widened, then the town would then need to acquire the land, basically buy the land for some other higher market value at the time. So that was why we got to our recommendation that we didn't want to approve the waiver, because it didn't make sense to give the land to them now just to take it away later. And ultimately, it's not going to affect where the house is going to be in relation to where the road is, since those plans are already kind of set in place.
And the special exception, recommended approved?
Yeah, I think that's what I say. We're comfortable with the house being built there. You know, if the landowners are comfortable with the ultimate location of the road, which is going to be about 5 feet, you know, or the sidewalk will be 5 feet from the front. That kind of, we talked about it a little bit, that kind of looks like an urban environment where the houses are up close to the road, not necessarily that unusual of a visual.
Questions?
So you didn't approve the variance?
Waiver.
The waiver? You
Correct.
did not? Okay.
Not approved the waiver.
Okay.
Did approve the special exception.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Good?
Thanks.
Thank you.
So my question is, the current house is going to get torn down and rebuilt on the same foundation?
That's what they're asking.
Okay. And stay very close to the road?
But would.
Where the road will be.
Where the road will be?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you figure out what?
But it's staying there would impact our ability to get the road. Right. I think
So
that's
in
important.
the planning board portion of the staff report, in the engineering background information, we did recommend denial, engineering staff did, of the waiver of not getting the full right-of-way. So recommend denial of the reduction in right-of-way. The area in the town council portion, the project does meet, it complies with ordinances. So it was not making a different recommendation on that waiver. But we don't really have a mechanism to make recommendations on waivers, so we just had shared our opinion in the background information.
Do you want to talk to the applicant for any reason?
Yeah, I'd like to hear, you know, the reason why that they're in need for this.
Let's ask the applicant to come up, please. And again, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paella Pani. I'm a resident of Fuquay Varina, project manager with Timeless Properties. This is, I think, the third or fourth property that we have redeveloped in Holly Springs. We believe in the vision, the village district, widening the roads, making it easier for everybody. Of course, this is a very unique situation that we find ourselves in. And we as a redeveloper find ourselves without options at this point. That's why we are requesting the waiver for you guys. We initially purchased the property with the understanding of setbacks. We were not aware of the right-of-way dedication, as they were published and approved, I think, a week before we had a meeting with the planning, zoning and planning. And then later on, we had to change our strategy. At first, we were going to completely tear it down, centralize it in the property so it's further off from the street. And once we found out that there was a right-of-way dedication and the financial hardship, we had to decide to keep the foundation, the existing foundation. And we actually had an engineer come out and basically assess the foundation, and we were able to build in the existing foundation because it's actually in good condition. So I have also brought my sister, who's my business partner and real estate broker.
My name is Cleida Panis. Like you said, we are partners in Timeless Properties.
All
I'm
right, hang on
also.
a second. So this is you haven't been sworn in? All right, we need to have you sworn in because this is a quasi-judicial type of situation. So if you'd step up to the clerk and each
Linda will do it.
Linda, please come.
swear in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. So my name is Cleida Pani, partner of Timeless Properties. I'm also a broker and owner of Timeless Realty, which is our real estate brokerage firm. So like Paella explained, we had different plans for this property. We really wanted to relocate it in the center of the lot. We didn't want to leave it right there because, I mean, speaking truthfully, it limits our buyers at the end if the house is that close to the street. But because of our financial hardship, which takes actually a third of our land away at this point, we decided to cut costs somehow and try to see if we can save the existing foundation and build upon it, which, you know, like Paella said, the engineer said it was possible. Still, it does not alleviate how many buyers we'll have for this property at the end, because not everybody likes to be right on the street. Some people might, some people might not. Or not the street, but the sidewalk anyways. We did a lot of estimates on what that financial burden would be on us based on losing a third of this lot. And I came up with $20,000 to $23,000 of loss, at least. I also had, because I understand, this is my company, so I understand you guys need other proof as well. I contacted at least 3 other brokers, and they contacted other brokers as well. I have their emails and papers as well to prove that they come up with the same estimation. And they vary from 20 to 23 plus $1,000 that will be of a loss.
So in a quasi-judicial, just to let y'all know, whenever anybody references something else, that's a no-no. I mean, we have to take just that information that's before you. Yeah. So, that's where a judge would bang a gavel right now and say hearsay. So, just to put that in context.
That's fine. I just wanted to say that this is just my opinion. I have others' opinions as well that kind of come up with the same amount of loss. But in saying that, we still want to work with the town. I mean, we want this project to be a good project, for the town and also for the future buyer and for us as well, because we believe in our product. We want to have a good product out there. And like Paila said, we believe in revitalizing this area. We have done that with 3 other properties here in town, and we have raised the value exponentially in this area. We believe we live in this area. We want this to grow. So we understand that the road needs to be widened and all that, but what we're asking is mutual understanding and cooperation so we can get this project going and it can be a successful project. We would like to be treated just the other buyers or the other owners on the street. So we would like to request, and we said maybe we'll dedicate 10 instead of 27 feet or 26 points, something that comes up, just to, in an effort to collaborate, understanding that would be a loss to us anyways at this time. But, if we could maybe either waive the right-of-way and we can, at the point where the next buyer buys it, then you have to purchase it from them, just like you would have to purchase it from any other owner on that street. Or if we can receive some compensation and then we can be able to actually move this house to the center, to where it's a more, a house that conforms more with what we want for downtown Holly Springs. I mean, we're trying to work. Any suggestions from you would be great. We just don't want to lose, at the end of the day, this is our property. You have the right to take it if you want to. We just hope that it doesn't end with that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because currently we do have a hardship that we need to figure out how to fix it.
Questions to the applicants?
What do we need in terms of the footage from the road? What's the minimum that full amount to be compliant? Okay.
Which is a third of our lot.
And that's why our setback waiver was for 586, because we took under consideration that down the road, once you purchase the right-of-way dedication from the future buyer, they'll be in compliance, the dwelling will be in compliance with the town, and the setback will have already been approved for 586, which is from the ultimate right-of-way. So we're just requesting the right-of-way dedication not be taken right now. That's why we request the waiver.
Or if you
That
take
means
it,
we would
just-
pay later. We would pay it when they sell the house and whoever that current owner is.
Yeah.
When we come through with a bond project or what have you for
Yep.
widening, we'll pay premium
Get it.
for that property that is
So-
taking their front yard.
So you need to be sworn into.
Oh, sorry. Or do I retract my statement of the audience?
What else?
You had mentioned timing. I was trying to think. You said timing of when you found out about Holly Springs Road. Did I hear?
I know what you're
In a
saying
week?
about
Can you guys, somebody help explain? Is that timing what happened with the town was within a week or?
No.
So,
So, Kendra, why don't you come get sworn in, and then you can testify as to what, it's sort of impeachment testimony. You heard testimony that the applicant didn't know of the road widening requirement, and now you're gonna maybe receive some other testimony.
Yeah, please.
They had mentioned they didn't know, or there was a week, something happened within a week of when you just acquired the property.
We weren't aware that, the plan for the highway was final, and and it could be a miscommunication, misunderstanding, but based on our knowledge, and correct me if I'm misspeaking here, that information wasn't put online until a week before our meeting with the town. So we weren't aware. We also have the selling agent as well, that she called the town. She wasn't aware either. We called, we weren't aware. So, we weren't aware that the highway was final and it's gonna go, and it would be a setback for us to actually give away a third of our, when we purchased the property.
So I can speak. The comprehensive transportation plan and that right-of-way has been approved. It was approved with the 2014 comprehensive transportation plan. It's been online on the comprehensive transportation plan since that time. So I'm not sure if there was, if maybe they were looking at something else online, I'm not sure, but I can speak to the fact that that right-of-way width has been decided and pretty standard for a while now.
Did you guys check at all?
She was just.
Did you check?
Yes.
You checked the roads on Holly Spring Road? You checked?
Yes, and we called and emailed the town as well. And if I may just call the selling agent so she can actually testify as well. She has a very similar story with us, as far as checking and, inquiring about the right-of-way dedication and the road widening.
And I just wanna point out, we're not trying to point fingers. Things happen, miscommunications happen. We are where we are right now. We're just trying to find a way to make this happen to where nobody really loses. I'm not trying to point out any fingers to anybody. Just want to reiterate that.
I was going to point out that there was an update in October to our plan, and maybe that's what they saw.
I don't know. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, hold on.
Hello.
Need to be sworn in.
Does she need to be sworn?
Yeah,
Hold on.
we need you
Yeah.
to
Need to swear in. Wait.
Have you been sworn in?
I have been.
You have been?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Deanne, and I worked on the transaction with Timeless Properties on the particular property in question. And I did reach out to the planning department here. And my understanding was that they need less traffic coming towards that part of Holly Springs, keeping it low density and traffic low. That's my understanding. There was no time when they stated that it would be widening. I did not ask if it would be, but according to the statements, my understanding that it wouldn't be because they're trying to keep less cars off that road.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I like the idea that the design is very nice, and is there any way you can, I know it's costly, but I feel it would probably be more marketable to move it all back a little bit, because you do have some land in back there.
We could, and we would love to do that. And that's why we're asking, instead of taking a third of our land, at least purchase it from us, just like you would purchase it from any other owner. That's what we're saying. Give us a hand so we can actually do a better project here. So we are not losing, because we would be losing money.
Counselor?
So, some negotiations did attempt to occur earlier this week, and unfortunately, I didn't really have enough time to gear up towards that. If council wanted to give the applicant a continuance of this hearing, and
That was going to be my question.
we could try and work something out as far as advanced acquisition. You know where we are on transportation issues relative to your very recent retreat,
Sure.
and that this area might get an accelerated look, and we could could conceivably do some advanced land acquisition in this area, and sort of might be a timing issue. You also have the downtown development incentive policy that does sort of marry well with maybe what they're doing. So we could
Table.
You know, if you wanted to grant a continuance as opposed to any other action, then, you know, for the next meeting, then I can meet with applicants and try and work something out.
What's your feeling, council?
Yeah, I would like to see,
I think so.
I would like to see a continuance here to look at any other options possible.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Hate to
instead
kill a
of just-
project, and, but I will tell you, we, you know,
We're gonna
the
widen
future
the road.
plan, I
Yeah,
mean,
the
we're
road-
gonna
road
widen
is
the
coming.
2 lanes. I mean, there's a lot of projects being built on that street, condos being built. There's going to be a lot of traffic, and there's traffic today. So, it's
Oh, I
not
drive it
going to
every
get
day.
less. It's not going to get
I
less.
drive it every day, I know.
And that's why we need to have 2 lanes each way, so I would, I don't know.
Motion
agree.
to grant a continuance?
Second.
Motion been made to grant
Is that right?
continuance. Is there a
Motion to
second?
make, grant the continuance?
Motion to table it until the next.
Motion to table it until the town has had, staff has had a chance to discuss.
Does this need to be date specific, being a quasi judicial public hearing?
I don't, did you advertise it?
Yes.
So yeah, why don't we do it not next meeting, but the meeting after.
The second
March
meeting.
20th.
March 20th meeting. All right, table, motion to table this until the March 20th meeting.
And just prior, while you've got your motion on the floor, before it's seconded, is there anybody to speak in opposition?
Yeah, I think
I want to ask
See
that.
no one.
Mr. Mayor, okay.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear a second. Did I hear a second? On your
Made
motion?
the motion.
Well, I'll second that.
Okay. Motion been made, second, all in favor to
Aye.
table this until March 20th, was it? Sorry, March 20th?
Yep.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's been tabled. Thank you.
Thank you
Liz.
so much and have a blessed night.
Okay, thank you. Agenda 8A, consent agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and we are... Something's happened to this, where are we?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to agenda item 9A, new business, Northwest Gateway Construction Contract. Sean again, please. There it is.
All right, this agenda item is in regards to a project that we have been working on for about 16 years now. So the map before you is a map of from the town's comprehensive plan, section 4, about community character, and it describes the goal to establish gateways in and around the town of Holly Springs. And gateways being major visual intersections which include an identification sign with distinctive landscaping, welcoming people to the town of Holly Springs. So if you can think of the one out at Pecan Grove South Apartments, they constructed a large sign that says, "Welcome to the town of Holly Springs." We have some smaller signs kind of located around town limits, the metal ones that say you're now entering Holly Springs. But the goal is to have more substantial structures that really highlight the character of our community. And so this map is part of our comprehensive plan, and as development comes in, we look to ensure that they are providing some sort of gateway feature. So this project specifically is within the Northeast Gateway, and that's this purple circle here. Here's Holly Springs Road right under my mouse, and Sunset Lake Road, so that intersection right there. And as development has occurred in this area, the town has been proactive in securing the necessary easements that would be needed to construct these signs. This project specifically proposes the design, fabrication, and installation of 2 primary gateway signs, and I'll show you what those look like in just a bit here. At the corner where the C-Store Subway is located, and the Dollar Tree or the old Walgreens, as well as some accent features on the opposing corners, the CVS and the Harris Teeter Fuel Center. And they'll go right up in the easements that the town has acquired. So just to give you a little bit of background on this project, the original design for this intersection was done back in 2002. So like I said, about 16 years ago. You can see it features large stone column, stone wall with our old Holly Leaf logo. This was supposed to be on all four corners, excuse me. And then the secondary gateway signs that I talked about, we had a design for those, and they were just the small column that had our holly leaf on it. In this Northeast Gateway area, as I said, as the projects developed, each project had to dedicate an easement for the eventual construction of these signs. So between 2002 and 2007, as each of those corners developed, the town acquired those easements so that we could do this project. In 2015, we had not had the funding to move forward with the project, so we simplified the design, and that's this design here. It was just some stone columns with a little bit of landscaping just to realize some of that sign design and get a feature at those corners. And that design was actually funded by the council in 2015-2016 budget year. We ran into some issues with some of the easements, and so we weren't able to complete the project that year. It was funded again in 2016-2017. At the same time, that same budget year, we also had our wayfinding sign program funded. So we hired a consultant to do a townwide wayfinding sign program that included the initial concept design for new gateway feature signs. So we put the project on hold until that sign design was completed, so that we weren't putting a lot of money into a sign that wasn't going to look the same as all the other signs that we were going to be putting in the future. And so out of that wayfinding sign design program, we have an image as to what we want the sign to look like, but we don't have any details as to what kind of brick it is, how tall the signs are going to be, what the materials are. And so in this current year's budget, money was appropriated towards finalizing the design of these signs and actually getting the Northeast Gateway signs constructed by the end of the budget year for this year. So just to give you an idea of what the sign will likely look like, the landscaping is included here, so it's a rough image, but this is in front of the Dollar Tree on that corner. So again, the goal is to create that gateway that lets somebody know that they are coming into the town of Holly Springs with 540 just up the road. Coming in the next several years, this intersection will truly be one of the busiest gateways into the town of Holly Springs, and so we wanted to start here with this project first. So in November of 2017, we released a request for proposals to ask sign companies to come up with a proposal to assist us with coming up with those final design details and eventually fabricate and install two of the primary gateway signs at the Northeast Gateway intersection. We received 5 informal responses to that proposal. An internal committee of staff reviewed all of the proposals. We weighted them and ranked them based on how responsive they were to the criteria. We interviewed one of our high scorers, and we are recommending that the town council award this contract to Rodney Signs, which is a Holly Springs company. The deliverables from this contract will be the construction documents for both the primary gateway sign and the secondary gateway sign, which is on the side of the screen here. We will not construct this secondary gateway sign, but we will have the construction documents so that it can be replicated once we are ready to construct it in those locations on that first map I showed you that were secondary gateway areas. We will fabricate and install 2 of the larger signs at that intersection, and then accent features on the opposing corners. So with that, I have a motion, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer him.
Sean, have we seen this, it looks very familiar to me. Have we seen this sign before?
Yes, when we were going through the gateway or the wayfinding sign design process, there were 3 designs for this gateway sign that were presented to the town council for review and comment, and this was the sign that had the support from the council.
Last question: will there be any lighting on these signs?
That is one of the things that we need to work out once we start getting into the details. Okay. We do want to have the signs lit, but we want to do it in a way that's appropriate and cost effective. So that is one of the details that we are hoping to work out with Rodney Signs through the process.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you go back, how does the tree motif fit in with our brand? Like, it seems like introducing another visual element that I haven't seen before.
This pattern here?
Yeah.
So this was just a pattern that was supplied by the initial consultant who did the wayfinding sign program design. We are not committed to this style of pattern. In fact, we're going to be discussing, if Rodney Signs is awarded the contract, a modification to this. But this was what the town council saw and felt was appropriate.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of.
And we
it doesn't
can
represent to me like.
I don't remember approving that design for the gateway sign. We did approve it?
Yeah, we
Workshop.
Is that
yes.
with, I remember the workshop.
Yes, ma'am.
I think
And,
we did.
and different variations were
Okay,
sent
that's
to the
it. Maybe that's
council
what I'm
as well.
thinking, different variations.
But I remember the shape of the sign.
Yeah, but
Correct?
not the trees is what got me surprised,
But
yeah.
I don't.
But like you say,
understand
we
how
can,
that tags to
yeah.
the brand. So if what we're approving now, do we
not the
get to
design.
see what some of the alternatives are? I mean, is there a different holly-like thing? that would
if it
happen?
is the desire of the council to see the final design that is selected, we can certainly bring it
Okay.
back to you.
Makes sense.
So what are we approving then today?
The money to,
Just the budget.
The money to design?
yeah, but we'd like to see the design.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's-
so-
And it could alter, it doesn't have to be that tree motif.
So before, so the contract, and John, I may need your help with this, the contract is for both the design, the fabrication, and construction.
Yeah, we can amend the contract to stop at design and come and get approval of the design first.
Well, we're dealing with a known source, so I think those kind of things should be fairly easy to do.
Yeah, it's just introducing a pretty visual new brand element that I don't see how it fits in yet. So that'd be great to talk about that more, see some options.
Just so we know how to work with Rodney's, is it too busy? Or are you looking for something that relates more to the logo?
I like the design, but with Councilwoman Kelly, the tree motif is,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
Just
Maybe holly leaves or something.
Straight bars.
Yeah. it's-
Warm and holly springy and I mean, I read the brand document that talked about the history and the new leaf. That doesn't speak that to me at all.
So we have had several conversations with John Delpy, who's representing Rodney Signs, and if you'd like to speak with him, we can definitely get him up here as well, as to kind of it's my understanding that black kind of sign panel, we can custom design that to be any pattern that we want. This was just the pattern that was originally shown on the design for the gateway signs.
So again, we're just going to approve the budget and then talk about the finals next time.
Still
You're awarding
design.
the
We're
contract.
approving metal.
We'll
We're
award,
approving
Oh, yeah.
metal.
we'll award the contract, but with
Amendment
amendment to stop.
at
Do
design.
not proceed to fabrication and
Well,
installation.
design's approved.
Is that good?
The cost for the lighting, is that included in the contracted amount, or would that be supplemental, additional to what we see?
So what is included is going to be everything that we finalize as part of the design. If it's going to be more money, then we would have to come back to you and let you know that it's going to cost more than what that estimate is. But if we can do it in a cost-effective way, we intend for it to be part of that $85,000.
Thanks.
Ready for a motion?
Yep.
Yep,
A little bit?
go.
I'll make the motion to approve a contract in the amount of $85,156.51 for design and construction administration services to Rodney Sign Company for the Northeast Gateway sign.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously, thank you.
Just
Thank
to
you.
clarify, that was with an amendment.
Yeah, sorry, with the
I thought I had
amendment
You want an
to stop
amendment,
at
I was
design.
Right.
Okay.
To see the design before construction.
All right,
You want me to add that?
yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. We'll add an amendment to get approval for the actual design for the Northeast Gateway sign.
Sign.
Thank you.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda, 9B, new business, RFP for executive search firm for town manager position. I think you all know this story quite well by now. In case those of you out there do not, there was an announcement recently that effective in April 2018, our incredible town manager will be retiring at the age of 24, or maybe a little more now.
Keeps getting better, yeah.
Yeah. And we had talked with the council before on several occasions about hiring an executive search firm. And I think each of you have replied back via email, as I recall. So I guess all we have to do at this point is just to have a motion, unless there's any more conversation. We're working on the RFP. Joni, it's simply that.
Motion to direct staff to issue a request for a proposal for an executive search firm to assist the town council through the hiring of a town manager.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Also, we will work on the RFP and we'll share that at some point for input if necessary. Probably not, but maybe. Okay? And that is that. Number 10, other business. I'll say quickly, crosswalk safety, speeding. I-540 is supposedly going to be done by 2023, correct, Daniel? And that will go all the way to I-40. Keep our fingers crossed. I think it's going to happen. And again, we were very fortunate to have Secretary Trogan down at the retreat. Learned a few things about driverless cars, gasoline, electric cars. Some of it kind of scared me. So I remember seeing that 18-wheeler going across the whole country without a driver on it. I'm not really quite there yet. So that's all I got. What else we have? Anything else?
Oh, I've got just two things. One, congratulations to the Holly Springs boys and girls basketball team. They made it to the conference championship Friday.
Really good.
And tonight, I believe the boys team is playing in the States as well as the girls. And,
Girls won the conference.
Sorry?
The girls won the conference, right?
Yeah, the girls won the conference. Yep, the boys came up a little bit short with Garner.
Oh, yeah.
Garner was #1 in the state, and then so they're playing this week. And then congratulations to Aaron Wilkie, who placed 4th in North Carolina's wrestling state tournament. That is a huge accomplishment. Hundreds and hundreds of kids compete everywhere and every year in the state championship, and Holly Springs was well represented. 4th in the state is pretty impressive.
Not bad.
So good weekend for Holly Springs, and good luck for programs this week.
Absolutely. Thank you. Who else? Good?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Managers report.
I will be brief. Although it feels like spring, we still have winter farmers market. March the 3rd is
Yes.
the next date, I do believe. So just a little reminder for everyone to keep that on their calendars.
And the ones that have been at the Cultural Arts Center have been terrific
And well attended.
and well attended. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Counselor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, like a executive session to go into, discuss some pending litigation matters, Curran Builders case versus Town of Holly Springs, Poitras et al. Versus Town of Holly Springs, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Also economic.
Motion.
Motion for
to
closed
go-
session.
Oh, good.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh.
Thank you for coming. We're going into closed session.
Just conceptually let them know what we're